Hello fellow crafters, this is the 6th video in the Peppermint Christmas series, and in this video I'll be showing you how to make this floral arrangement in the peppermint standard red and white stripe pattern. The first part of doing this project is figuring out what is going to be your focal point or your centerpiece for the floral arrangement. In my case, I've chosen this, it's actually a candle stand that I purchased at the Christmas tree shops, and it's super lightweight, but you could use a basket or a bowl or anything that might display your floral arrangement. I chose this one just because I wanted to be able to dangle the flowers over the outside of it, as opposed to kind of put them into a basket or something of that nature. And then once you've decided that, you have to, with floral pieces, it's typically easiest to use styrofoam because you can just shove the stems of the flowers, whether they're real or fake, into the styrofoam. Since I'm using fake ones, I can use this kind of heavyweight styrofoam. And this is a 6-inch diameter semi-sphere. And I'm hoping that this will help it sort of take the wrapping down shape, and it gives me the option of sticking a rod through there, and there's a hole in the bottom of this that I can use if I need to, although I am going to aim to see if it'll just balance on top. If it's balanced, I think it'll be fine to hold its position. If it's unbalanced in any way, or if it's just slidey or wobbly, then I may need to reinforce a little bit more. So I'm going to work not on that for the most part, and the flowers that I've chosen to work with are these wisteria flowers. It came as a bush, and I just bought it at the craft store, and these come with individual stems that pop off. Most fake flowers are built like this, and so I'm going to pop off a bunch of these. I could leave them on the stems that it comes on, and you could do this if that's your preference. I'm considering the possibility that I may someday pull this apart or want to use this bush for something, so I'm not destroying this bush so much. I'm just going to use some old bush pieces to cut into a bunch of small pieces that I can pop in the styrofoam. So the idea that I'm going for here with this arrangement falling in the category of my peppermint arrangement or peppermint combination of videos is just a variation on color. So with something like peppermint that is identifiable by the fact that it's alternating red and white, or sometimes green and white, there's a lot you can do to, whoops, that's a leaf, to make variations on that idea. So it makes for a good theme because not everything has to be, your perfect circle-shaped peppermint, although some of my other crafts have been based on that. You can take a different sort of approach and just use the color. What I have to figure out is I have 4 of the red ones, which came as individual stems with a large and a small flower on it. I have to figure out if that's going to be enough, or if I need to alternate the small flowers in with the big ones. If I do 4, it's got to cover 1/8 of the plant. I have a feeling that if I just do it like this, there's going to be a lot of the styrofoam showing, which I'm going to I'll hide that, but I almost need like little staples to hold these in, because I just want to see it in place. So I'm going to try and hold it. And if I put this up, that, oh, I lost one. That gives the visual. And it does seem to be a little lacking. I'd rather err on the full side. So I'm going to jump up to 6. 6 of a color. And pull out one of the large red ones and put in 3 of the small red ones. Now these are significantly smaller, so I have a couple of options. I could sort of do, for lack of a better way of explaining this, a mullet and do longer stems in the back, but pull some of the white around to make shorter ones in the front. I'm not sure exactly what that would look like in the end, and it seems just awfully risky. Like, there are a lot of ways it could go wrong. The other option would be just to do the true every other long red, short red. See what that looks like. I think that's going to look fine. And I doubt that I'm going to be able to hold all of these. So I'm just going to trust that I'm on the right track. So this is 12 stems in total. And I'm basically going to cut 12 pieces of my spare stem, or you could cut it out of the stem you were given, just long enough to go pretty solidly into the styrofoam, but also stick through the stem piece. So I'm going about 2.5 to 3 inches long. 12. And because I've pulled these from other floral arrangements, they do have the wire inside. You could actually probably just use regular wire to do the same thing here. So next I'm going to give each of these a piece. There is a sort of grippy end to the normal ends. Some of mine are cut from the middle, so they don't have that, but that's supposed to go into the stem so it holds better. I did have to go to a couple different craft stores to find the 2 different colors of the wisteria, which is why they're different styles. This one brought some of its stem with it. The red ones are hard to find. The white ones are pretty easy to find And fun fact, I used these white ones, not these particular ones, but the same type of fake flower in my wedding bouquet. Okay. So now they all have a little bit longer of a stem that's a little more bendy. These are just a plastic stem, so they do this, which makes them very pretty when they dangle. But it doesn't give them any support for going into the styrofoam. And I think that I need to figure a little bit. I think I want them to come out sort of halfway from the bottom to the top of this ball. So these may turn out to be a little too long, but so I'm going to go a tad higher and sort of go in at about that angle. That just went through the bottom. And I'm going to need to shorten these, but I went in all the way up to where the first stem starts coming out. And fair warning, the styrofoam makes a terrible mess. Whoop. Alright. So I took off about 3/4 of an inch. I'm just going to shorten these as I go so I get the hang of it. And here's something to think about too. So I've got 12. That means that the opposite of this is that also going to be, I'm trying to think about what color it needs to be. I feel like there's an answer in clocks here. There's 5 in between. No, that makes sense. It has to be a white opposite this. If you're thinking clocks, 12 and 6 are both even numbers. So one of the things that's helpful when you do a project like this is work opposite sides. If you just start going around, you may find that they're too tight or too far apart. So I try to do a lot of bisecting, cutting my circle in half. So I'm eyeballing right now, if I were to draw a straight line through, approximately, where would my, or I put this on that same line. Alright, and then you have opposite sides, which looks like a girl with pigtails. Those are very crooked from each other. Wow, it's a good idea. Poorly executed. Should be like way over here. How did I do that so? Oh, see from that angle it looks like weird. It's like an optical illusion. Anyways, it's close enough. So, even numbers, odd numbers. 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. We've got 2 odd numbers, so I'm going to put red, which are my representing odd to me, at the next corners. I'm going to try to do the same thing. This is really, it definitely is off. Oh, I didn't have this kind of straight on. Yeah, that's definitely no good. Best thing about styrofoam though, very forgiving. Alright, I'm going to move over here. And there's my slightly above halfway point. Okay. And 3 o'clock. I want to look at it kind of from multiple angles. just to make sure we don't have too much trouble. And I want to make sure my short and long reds are going to end up in the right place, which means I need to, okay, it'll be short, long, short, long. So I need to do a short and a long opposite. And then we can fill in between with 1 and 2 o'clock, 4 and 5 o'clock, so on, making sure to have the proper reds lengthwise and the proper whites. And at this point, I'm just going to work kind of looking down at it now that I've got cardinal points to work with. And at this point, I'm just splitting into thirds. And I'm trying to put them more down in than across in. Which I'm doing in the hope that it'll kind of cover the middle. Not obviously fully covering, because we're going to have to do some filling. But it also features the shape of the wisteria. You can see how much bend it has when this is perfectly straight. So I'm aiming for here. If you aimed for here, you'd have a lot of dead space in the top. And now for the test, which is, what does it look like on my pedestal? It looks a little spread out, but I'm hoping that I can fill in the undersides with some leaves. So the leaves have to go really pretty much like a tangent to this circle here, to the sphere. There are a lot of ways you could attach this to your styrofoam. You could put wire in these and try to poke them in. I feel like it's probably going to be easier to basically use wire staples. They make actual pins for this very purpose, floral pins, that look like, you know, a little U shape, and you just push them in to hold stuff in place. I don't have any of these, and regular paper staples are not going to be big enough. Electrical staples, electrical wire staples, would do the job, but they're going to be awfully big for this. So I think I'm going to make staples by bending wire, but I need to get some wire. And this here is 16 gauge galvanized wire. It's what I use to make the wire skeleton of my Wiggins elephant. And I'm just going to, I had a spare piece here. Basically want an inch or so to go in, plus ½ inch or so to hold it in place. Snip. Presto, a staple. It's probably too large. Well, unnecessarily large. I think it could be narrower. Yeah, I think I do. Alright, that was good practice. I don't think it needs to be quite so long. And it can really turn pretty much right around. So, there we go. 2.0. There we go. Got a little staple. And what I aim to do here is to crisscross my 2 leaves that I've got. Probably ought to count, make sure I have enough leaves first, so hold that thought. And since I've got the red ones shorter in some cases, I want these to sort of find their home right underneath the red ones, even though some of them are longer. So I'm just going to cross them and then put the little staple right where I've crossed it. And then put it about halfway up beneath the red. So that looks like that. That holds nicely. And this then could theoretically fall down right over top of it. And it just fills that in underneath really nicely. You can always adjust slightly. I'm trying to use the leaves to sort of maximize how much is covered. And I'm not going to bother cutting off the ends of the leaves. It seems unnecessary. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 5 more of those. I will say too that you want to make sure that your staple is going in underneath a set of leaves so that it can't just pop down at the bottom. I think that's a good start. It seems like it needs a little bit more fullness. So the question will be if I want to use these. I think I do. These have like a yellowish color to them. But it adds a nice bit of variety. So what I'm going to do is just add a single stem, I think. Yeah, just a single stem under each white flower. Okay. And I'm going to do exactly the same stapling process, but I'm going to try to hang these really low, kind of as low as possible. Right at the bottom edge. And I think I'm going to try to make them so they hang on this thicker bit, rather than having to move them up far enough to catch under these leaves. So these staples are going to need to be just turned around rather than kind of squared off at the top. One thing that I've learned about floral arrangements is that you don't want to leave empty gap spaces. Like, it's one thing to do that on purpose to achieve an effect, but you don't want to have that as a result of just not having enough material. And I always think about the flowers for sure, but I don't always remember to think about the leaves. Now, fortunately, they come on the same stem, but it's worth saving the leaves if you don't use them for a given project, or just making sure to use them because they do provide a nice fullness in wreath making and other floral arranging projects like this one. Last one. And these ones I am going pretty parallel to the bottom of the styrofoam to fill in. Alright, let's take a look at that. I think that's roughly what I was going for. Given that I only had a rough concept when I started, we're going to consider that mission accomplished. So now the last thing we have to do is kind of fill in the top here with something. I'm leaning toward sort of a little circle of my remaining red. Followed by the white, which has these little short ones. Might need two. Which I just want to look at sort of temporarily placed here. See if that looks good. So I think I probably want 4, maybe to hold 3. Shoot, 1, 2, probably 3 at least. To hold the red in place. I'm going to make these slightly longer, cutting off probably about 4 inches. Just so that if I don't want to push them all the way down tight into the styrofoam so that the flowers can sit up a little bit, this will allow for it, which is another benefit of making your own staples, if I do say so myself. And I'm going to make these those tighter ones. Smells like wire. Makes sense. Okay. More on that in a second. So I'm looking to... Remember, I have a short one and a long one in here. I'm going to try and catch the end of each, like the 2 ends that meet. So, I want to come in and I want to just make sure it's positioned so that it can't slide off. And just tuck away those extra ends. I usually try to do as little damage as possible, which sounds funny, but if I don't have to cut off the ends of something, I try not to, because you never know when you're going to want to pull this apart and use these for something else. So I'm just trying to catch on either side of sets of leaves. Very hard to see. I had actually caught a petal and it wasn't letting me push it in. And number 3. This one I'm just putting in the middle of the long one to hold it down. Alright, good. That feels very secure. And then these 2, the reason I'm using 2 instead of 1 is just that 1 you'd have to stick straight down in. You're going to lose a lot because, I mean, that's sort of where it would be if I went down to the first stem, because it would have to stick up this much, and I don't really have room for that. So you're better off tucking them inside, the stems in sideways, and letting them sort of fill out the space together. And I think I'm just going to try to use, well, no, I like those long ones. I'm going to make 2 more of those long staples. And I just have to kind of catch something in here. Looks like it can go down between leaf stems. So that's what I did. And it's just here for security so it doesn't... Ow. I think I might have run into another one. So it doesn't fall out or loosen or anything. You can always add, if you'd like, some leaves in. It's often a good idea What about these ones? Oh, fibers. I'm going to test with these. Should have pulled off the other stems. Yeah, that's definitely going to add to this, so I'm just going to put a few in here. And I opted for this one, this type of leaf, only because they have nice short stems already. Which is just handy. And it looks like 5 may actually fill this out very nicely. Which makes sense. I'm sort of going every other, it's like between the white ones is sort of where it ended up. So 5 more staples. Just try to find the bottoms of those, and I'm coming in just above the bottom set of leaves. So right in here is where the staples are going. So I think with the original concept of what I had in my head, I would have preferred to have more of the longer red ones, but they were, I want to say, sort of expensive. $8 a stem. But it was the only ones I could find that were what I wanted. Turns out red wisteria are not the easiest to find. So, you can see the styrofoam from underneath, so if you're putting this somewhere high up, you might have to put more leaves or something under there. I don't know that I care. Pretty sure I don't. So the last thing I'm going to do is just cut a chunk off of the bottom of this. And I am going to hopefully find the center of this accurately. Not always good at that. That's about center. And just shove that in there. Oh, it's crooked. Probably still crooked, but that's alright. And I've noticed that the bottom of this stand, which is approximately the same as the top, has a hole in it, so I could just drop that down in there, and it at least provides a little bit of stability and assurance. So there you have it. There is my peppermint-themed Christmas floral arrangement on a pedestal. Thanks for supporting Tickled Fancy Crafting by watching this video. Click the like button to let me know that you enjoyed the content, and subscribe to see new Tickled Fancy Crafting videos in your feed. If you'd like to be informed directly about the content, ring the notifications bell. Comment with crafts that you would like to see in the future, and remember, you can make this.